Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Wellness 360s live educational series. I'm back with Jay Verna, and today we are going to talk about defining your health and wellness. So what is true wellness? Say hello to everyone, Jay.
How's everybody doing? Good to be back.
I want to start out by just defining true health and wellness. The World Health Organization defines wellness as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease, which I think is really important to let people know that it's not always, you don't always have to be absent disease to be truly healthy. What do you think, Jay?
And the definition of health goes way beyond that. I mean, answering that question, we could probably spend the rest of this hour, which is probably what we're going to do. But yeah, I would definitely agree. Lots of different dimensions to it. I don't know if you had something else you wanted to add to that, but one of the things I was going to say, one of my jobs here at for the town of Webster, or I should say part of my job, is to chair a wellness employee wellness program, and I sit on a bigger committee that encompasses a lot of different towns and authorities, and we use a model. There's so many different models of wellness out there, but they all kind of boil down to the same thing. We tend to use a 5-dimension model, which is like social, surroundings, physical, financial, mind, and spirit, and we can talk a little bit about each of those domains. But I think when we take a deeper dive into it, we really see that health isn't just about the physical aspects of it. Yeah, I would definitely say that is true, and there's a lot of different things to think about when it comes to it.
I couldn't agree more. And I feel like the dimensions, I have a lot of people that come to me being, Wellness 360, and they say, well, I need to be healthy, so what should I be eating? Or how should I be exercising? But when all reality, there's so many more dimensions to what health is. And I know you're on the wellness board, and at Wellness 360, we believe fully in helping support all of those dimensions, hence our mindfulness class. And we do, these educational series to educate people to make better choices for their life. So it's really important to me, and I'm sure for Jay too, that we really educate you on what the pillars are so that you can find a really nice balance in your own health and wellness world. And sometimes just realizing that you can have a diagnosis, you can have a disease and still find that balance in life. You don't have to throw in the towel. The doctor says, I have this diagnosis or this disease, so let's just throw in the towel. There's so many other elements to being truly healthy that we can find balance in your life.
Yeah, well, I think you said the magic word. It's all about balance. So I think when we talk about these various domains of health, it's learning to strike a balance between all those. The other thing I think that's really important is they don't all act in isolation. What affects one domain tends to affect all different aspects, and we can kind of talk about certain examples as we go here. So I don't know, do you want to start, just talk about some of these different domains and kind of?
Yeah, I like that. So when I was going over your notes that you sent me, because we do like to have some sort of idea of what we're going to be talking about, I teach the mindfulness class, and I've taught some mindfulness classes for the Webster Rec Center for the seniors, and I actually did a series on true health. And a lot of mine did correlate, but the wording was slightly off. So I'm just going to name the pillars, and then we can kind of pick them apart. So the pillars, both Jay and mine combine, is relational or social. So it's just being connected with other people, which I know at the Webster Rec Center is super important for the seniors. And for us at Wellness 360, it's super important having those group classes and people being together to be supportive to each other. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is more of like a spiritual pillar, just having a purpose in life. knowing that there is a reason for you being here and a reason for you to contribute to the world around you. Then we move on to mental, being alert, being focused, being competent, learning and remembering and problem solving. We have physical component or a dimension, which is just feeling vibrant and energized. This is where our exercise kind of comes in. Your emotional, it's really important, and we'll talk more about this, is to not only have all of your emotions, but to be able to feel them appropriately. And then environmental, knowing your everyday environment is supportive to you. This is wanting to get outside, wanting to get in nature, wanting to give back, those kind of things. So let's dive in. What do you say, Jay?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's start with social wellness, because that was the first one on my list. So I have a couple questions that, and then I'll kind of let you take over from there. So when I was teaching my class, some of the questions I ask are, do you have at least 3 people who you have a close, trusting relationship with? Are you aware of and able to set boundaries for yourself and respect others? Do you have satisfying social interactions with others? And do you have a sense of belonging? So these are some of the questions that fall under the social wellness pillar, which I think in this COVID-19 time is going to be really important and a really big pillar for us to talk about.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think, you know, when you look at some of the questions that you were talking about, like having a sense of belongingness, you know, even kind of teasing some of these out a little bit more, feeling respected, seen, valued, supported by others, developing and maintaining authentic, fulfilling relationships, connecting and interacting well with others. So, you know, when we look at it, it's not just so much about socializing and being around other people, but just having meaningful relationships, feeling valued, again, having that sense of, hey, I do belong here, I can contribute to this. And I think a lot of the stuff that we've already talked about in some of our previous presentations really can support a lot of this. So some of the tools we talked about, sleep, meditation, and mindfulness, can really come into play when we look at some of these different dimensions of health and how we can achieve that balance.
I couldn't agree with you more. I know for sure, working with Webster Rec Center and with Wellness 360, that social networking is really, really important. It's really important to, especially as you age, and really at any age. For the Webster Rec Center, I know I do a lot of senior programs, and just seeing how spirits are uplifted, having that relational, being able to sit and have lunch with each other, take classes together. And I know for Wellness 360, having the same diagnosis, the same group of people fighting the good fight, having the same struggles, same medications, doctor, you know, being able to talk about doctors and struggles that you're having. And for caregivers, having caregivers getting together and supporting each other through these times. It's just so important to have that. And if you have struggles with finding where you fit in, or wanting to belong somewhere and you just don't know where to start, Jay and I's email address is always available. You can contact us at any times. I can't speak enough or higher for the Webster Rec Center. There's a club for everyone. And for us with Wellness 360, we always have things going on, which is a little different now with this virtual thing. And I feel like we're kind of at a loss for that that touch and that one-on-one, face-to-face communication. And we're doing the best that we can with doing online. I don't know about, I think the Webster Rec is having Zoom classes, right?
Yeah, we're actually, we've been doing Facebook Live classes. We started a couple weeks ago. We actually have been doing some senior fitness classes on Wednesday mornings, and I've been doing my Move Well class. And basically, we are gradually building out a live virtual class schedule, because even when we do eventually reopen, we understand there's going to be some people that aren't going to be comfortable coming in. And also with the scheduling of our building with all the different things that we're looking to do once we reopen, we want to be able to fill in and add some more value by still keeping some of these type of classes. So I think what I've noticed is we started right off as soon as we kind of locked down with, okay, what are we going to do? So that's when we developed, created our YouTube channel, started doing videos. And one of the things that I've noticed that really helps is actually having that live component. So there's a schedule. I know on Tuesday at noon, I'm going to do my Move Well class with Jay for a half hour. If somehow I miss it, I know I can go to the YouTube channel or go back to Facebook and watch it. But some of the feedback we've gotten is people like that being connected, seeing people that are familiar surroundings, because it has been so tough right now to do anything. And even from my perspective, it's kind of hard getting used to, coaching to a camera, so to speak. So I think it's certainly been a good thing. We're I hope getting better at it, and we're certainly getting more people involved with it. But yeah, it's been really huge, and again, we just plan on continuing to grow it and as many people on board and connected as we can.
That's so awesome. I know for Wellness 360, we've taken this time and really built an online platform too. We do the Zoom classes. Whatever time we used to have class, I still hold a Zoom call. We're not technically exercising, but the support of everyone in the class to be able to talk and check in and for us to be able to support them and help guide them in ways they need, and people to just check in on their peers and their friends that they've built through these classes is so important. We're getting ready to launch an online subscription program for all of our diagnoses. So we're really excited about that too. That's coming out, I think, next week. So
yeah, I think it was an opportunity, I think, for everyone to, reassess where we are and what maybe we need to do, get outside our comfort zone and start developing some of these things. So, at the very least, maybe it builds some resiliency in the future, God forbid, should something like this happen again. Or maybe it's going to be a while before people are comfortable coming back to physical facilities where they can exercise and socialize. So, continuing to, improve upon and add more of these virtual platforms, I think is well worth our time.
absolutely. I feel like we can really say a lot of positive. I know it's been a negative experience, but we've found a lot of ways to like Jay said, step out of our comfort zone. That's something that's very important for your health and wellness, to not always be boxed into your comfort zone. So hopefully we're getting better with our talks and the computers are working better, or maybe it's user error that was before. I don't know. Either way, it's becoming easier.
Yes.
So having good social wellness is really critical for even building emotional resilience. So as Jay said before, we're going to see how some of these things support each other. I want to talk just a few minutes on just some tips for you to become more balanced in your social wellness pillar. So it's really important to reflect on yourself, your passions, and your likes. Why is this important for social wellness? Because you want to make sure you're plugging into things you enjoy. If you're plugging into things you enjoy, you're more likely to do them. Also, spend time with friends and family. Again, now, even if it's through Zoom or social distancing with your mask at one of the parks locally, but try to get some social time with your friends and family. Another biggie for social wellness is active listening. Really learn, practice your active listening skills of listening to what people say, not throwing, sitting there trying to figure out what you're going to say next, like really truly listening to what others are saying to you. Join a club or organization. Again, we have two business owners right here sitting in front of you that both have are involved in clubs or organizations that have different types of social activities for you. And set appropriate boundaries. Whenever you were talking about social wellness, it's really important to learn what an appropriate boundary is. So boundaries are not keeping others out. Boundaries are empowering yourself to make better, healthy choices for you, to improve your health and wellness. It encourages you to change or avoid unhealthy lifestyle habits, and it really helps you create really strong social ties. So setting boundaries is really simple. I just wanted to talk a quick minute on that. You want to really do it respectfully and as little words as possible. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say yes. You don't have to have big explanations behind why you choose or do not choose to do that. And you should not be holding other people to holding up, you know, if someone says no, just being respectful that that was their boundary. There's no need to get angry or apologize about the boundary that you're setting. Just know what's right for you. So again, that comes back to awareness, which we were talking about in our mindfulness series, knowing what is right and is wrong for you, and knowing how to say, yeah, sure, I'd love to jump in and do that, or no, I think I'm going to pass on this. And boundaries is just another word for just respecting how other people feel, and spending time around people that respect how you feel is really important for social. The only reason I throw that in is I see a lot of times where people are stretching their boundaries to want to fit into a group or organization that might not be right for them. So just find those really good connected relationships and hold tight to them. Anything else you want to add about the social wellness?
Well, just to kind of piggyback on what you said, and to kind of bring it to something that we are all kind of, well, most of us tend to get sucked into, is the whole, you know, social media. And actually, Beth and I were talking about a potential upcoming topic, you know, about how do we learn to use a lot of these technologies to better ourselves and not get all sucked in. But one of the things that I've thought about is, you know, maybe evaluating, if you are on Facebook or you like to log in on Twitter, what kind of value are you really looking for out of those? And when it comes to something like Facebook, maybe thinking about, okay, what are the actual handful of people that I want to connect with, that make me feel good about myself, that I feel good about, and maybe working on ways to, you know, not always being plugged in to everything else. And we can talk about that more maybe in a future discussion, but I think it definitely fits here in that it's a big part of social health. And when you're constantly being barraged with Facebook notifications and all that stuff, let's face it, I mean, how many of us are on Facebook and have all of these Facebook friends and family, people that, you know, theoretically we really love, but they drive us crazy because of all the posts, whether it's political, this or that. So I think you can really help yourself in that regard by just doing a little bit of an evaluation and seeing, okay, do I really need to be on here? Do I really, you know, are there ways that I can set some of those boundaries, you know, in the virtual world as well?
There is a wonderful button, and I want everyone to grab their phones right now and look. It is called unfollow. I discovered it a few months ago, and let me tell you, you can still be friends with people and share different views, but that is a boundary that you can set. It's not unfriending them. It's just you don't see their news feed unless you purposely plug in their name and go to their page. So it's a great feature. It's a wonderful thing, and you can still have contact, but again, it's just setting a nice boundary of saying, I'm going to spend my time looking and reacting to things that build me up and make me smile and make me, just like this lovely meditating giraffe behind me. It's the ugliest thing in the world, but every time I see it, it makes me smile. So just surround yourself with things that make you feel good about yourself. It really translates into all aspects of your life.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, let's go to the next pillar. So first pillar was social wellness. Second pillar, spiritual wellness. So I'll let Jay start on this one. I got a couple things here.
Yeah, I think, you know, when we think about spiritual, there's the obvious one, whether it's if you have any type of religious faith or whatever, I think that could be very important too. That can also connect you in a social way if you go to a church, or though obviously now that's been tough for people to do, though I know a lot of religious institutions are doing Zoom services and things like that. But I think if we just look at it a little bit, it's like having that deeper why. Why am I here? You know, what is my purpose? What gives me joy and happiness and satisfaction? I think that fits really well here. And a lot of this just takes, you know, some time just to reflect, and using some of the tools of mindfulness and in meditation and those type of things, just to really get a sense of what it is that makes you feel good, you know. And it's not the same for all of us. And the other thing too is, I think that goes along with that, is just having a stronger sense of ourselves and what our self-worth is. Because one of the things that I've learned in my fledgling meditation practice is being compassionate to yourself, and not just kicking yourself and thinking in being, you know, negative self-talk. It's understanding, okay, I am worth something, so what do I need to do to make myself feel that, or part of that bigger picture? And is there a larger purpose than just ourselves? You know, is it a job that you do? Is it a volunteer thing that makes you feel like you have that purpose? So all these things, I think, really go into this kind of bucket of wellness, along with, you know, any religious or faith-based beliefs that you might have.
Absolutely. I find that spiritual wellness, when it's not a religion, it's more of your faith in having a purpose. Just like Jay said, faith in that there's something out there larger than you. It's your ethics, your morals. It's kind of where all of that foundation stuff comes from. It allows us to find meaning in our life, and kind of helps us to define our individual's true purpose. Because when people have a purpose and feel like they have a purpose in life, it really helps decrease their overall stress, and their day-to-day activities are not as stressful because they feel like they're doing it for the greater good, for the greater good of this world. And it builds compassion for human existence, which is really, really important anymore. I've been out in the public just a little, social distancing. I had to run a couple errands, and there's a lot of really angry people out there. And I don't know if it's because they have their mask on and they feel almost like when you're text messaging someone that, you know, you can get away with saying and doing things that you wouldn't typically say or do. But I feel like during this COVID time, I think that everyone could take a little time and really focus on their spiritual wellness, start their meditation practice, really sit back and find out what is important to you in life. And I find, and this is my own personal opinion, that the issues that we've gone through in our past, whether it be a disease diagnosis or maybe a divorce, or you know, there's so many different things that happen that are very stressful in this world, but sometimes those they happen in our world so that we can be supportive to others when they go through the same thing. So it's just rethinking things that happen to you, being grateful for things as opposed to being angry about things. And I just was reading something because I'm writing an article, and it said something about, you know, if you walk into a garden and all you see is the rotting apple tree, you miss out on all the beautiful flowers and all the other beautiful trees that are there. So it's really just about changing your focus in life, and instead of focusing on the woe is me in life, really recognizing that there's something greater out there for you, and something bigger than you, which really helps ease a lot of stressors in day-to-day life. But meditation is really key. You have to know who you are. You have to know how your body reacts. You have to know what your belief systems are. And sometimes I find that spiritually, 90% of the things that we say and do are from our subconscious mind. So sometimes it's really nice to sit back sometimes quietly to ourselves. And when things come up, you can kind of weed the garden. You can kind of think, well, where did that belief come from? I tell this story in my mindfulness class. My grandmother told me that the needles on a cacti plant, they jump at you. And she told me that my whole life. And it wasn't until I was probably in my late teens, early 20s that I recognized I walked by a cactus and I thought, they don't really jump. But I believed her for my whole life, because why wouldn't you believe your grandmother? So sometimes it's just sitting there recognizing where your belief systems come from, and it's okay to change them sometimes. It's okay to weed that garden. And but the biggest thing that I find in the spiritual wellness is what I call my God winks. Just being grateful for those little things that happen day to day that maybe sometimes we overlook when we're not being mindful. But, just missing that accident, or, you hit the red light and then you drive a few minutes later and you see that, that accident, or all of those little things that happen that we take for granted in life, that it's nice sometimes to really just be grateful
Yeah.
for the things that we have.
And if we want to point to another silver lining of COVID here, is that, yeah, maybe we are all stuck home with our family, but how many of us have had more meaningful conversations with our spouses, more meaningful time with our children, that before all this happened, we never seemed to have the time to do that? So the way I've been looking at it is, hey, you know what? There's been a lot of time spent in a very positive way. And obviously I can only speak for myself, but I think another thing to kind of further what you were saying too, a really good example for me when we're talking about this whole spiritual thing or finding a bigger why is being in this field for as long as I've worked with a lot of people that are retired. And I've seen people that once they retire, they've found something meaningful, basically find that reason to get out of bed every day. And those are the people that tend to always have a smile on their face, to continue to be healthy and vibrant, and maybe have many long years, barring something unforeseen, of happy and healthy retirement. The flip side to that, I've also seen people that as soon as they retired, they had nothing to do. Maybe it was being at home all the time, sleeping, really no kind of purpose that got them out of bed and make them feel good. Now, let's face it, it's nice to have those few days away from whatever your daily grind is and you rest up. But after a certain point, I don't care who you are, you start realizing, hey, I want to be part of something where I feel like I'm contributing, whatever that is. It's, your job, whatever it might be. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us, and again, throughout the entire health, fitness, wellness space, all these things we talk about are great, but the bottom line is each and every one of us has to take some time to invest in actually doing some of these things. So again, I find what works for me. I hear people all the time saying they don't have time. I will very respectfully disagree, because some of the busiest, most successful people on this planet have found time to, find things that support their health. So for me, it's the daily meditation, but also scheduling a certain window of time, just once a week, where all I do with a notebook and a pen, I just think. I just sit there, get all these thoughts out of my head, good, bad, positive ideas maybe that might be worth trying, both from a professional standpoint, personally. So all this information is really, really awesome, and I hope people are getting something out of it. But at some point, there needs to be some kind of little action where we take a step forward and actually start pursuing these. And for a lot of us, it's just you get to that certain point where it's like, okay, something's got to change. So what am I going to do next?
I can promise you, if you are one of the ones that are saying, well, I just don't have time for this kind of stuff, your body and your mind, they're going to make time. So whether you make time for it now or not, your body is going to shut down. And I tell people that all the time with flus or sickness, or if you keep pushing through, your body's smart. your body, if you're not taking the time for yourself, it is going to shut down and it is going to make the time for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving along, so just picture these pillars. We're now at our third pillar, being like the support for your porch. When one starts to falter, the whole roof starts to sag a little. So it's really important, like the ebb and the flow. Like I feel like this mental, spiritual, and emotional for me is very, very interconnected. And so is my social, because I make choices during my mental state or my emotional state of where my social life is. So they all play a very significant part in each other, and they're kind of all intertwined. So we're going to move along to mental wellness. I feel like I actually kept it blank on my notes because I will spend forever on here. So I'm going to be very brief. We talked about the mindfulness meditation. I cannot say enough about it as far as growing gray matter in your brain. It's almost like those brain activities that you do, like the Sudoku puzzles. And once you stop using it, you will lose it. It's been proven over and over and over again. So what do you want to start with the mental wellness?
Um, well, maybe just a couple of points on what I think um, this particular pillar consists of is it'd be things like, you know, how well we think, learn, remember, our perspective and outlook on the world, our capacity for insight and conscious awareness. I mean, all these things seem kind of deep. Our creativity and flexible problem solving. And again, you kind of bring it back to mindfulness and meditation. But a lot of what we talked about in our presentation on sleep can really aid us here. If people will recall when we talked about the different stages of sleep, the different benefits derived, if we really focus on shoring up our sleeping habits, so that's you know, good quality and quantity of sleep, and making sure that we are regularly doing that, things like creativity and being better with our emotions are two huge benefits, you know, from doing that. So again, when people, you know, we talk about where can we start with all this, again, what's some of the foundational things? I mean, if we look at this as a pyramid, right there on the bottom is things like sleeping, you know, those basic physiological need, but there's so many benefits. And we all know when we sleep good, we feel awesome. We
Yes.
treat everybody in our lives so much better. When we don't sleep good, it's the complete opposite. We feel terrible. We're not really good with our emotions. So again, just to kind of tie in some of the things we've already talked about and some of the tools we already discussed, you know, kind of going back to that, that's to me is a big foundational thing. And those are some of the things that I would kind of think about when we look at mental and cognitive health.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. I feel like with the mental aspect, it takes the whole pyramid. It takes the getting the right sleep, taking time for yourself, whether it's through mind body motion, like a yoga or Tai Chi, or doing something for yourself, whether it's the meditation or breath work. But it all comes down again to self-awareness. For me, I know if I haven't slept or I haven't ate properly, I get super, super, super grumpy. So for me, if I go too many days of Netflix binge watching and maybe having 2 glasses of wine instead of one, and I'm not getting then the whole rest of my wellness wheel or my pillars, they're so irregular. They're so it's like trying to roll a wheel that's not perfectly circle. It doesn't work. So self-awareness through meditation and just knowing who you are, not who your friends say you are, not who your parents told you had to believe, not through anything else besides just you, just being that quiet time with your own self to know who you really are and how you really feel and how your body reacts to certain things. Again, I just can't stress getting good sleep and meditation, just sitting there quietly. And like Jay was saying, journaling, it's all been proven to increase the gray matter in your brain. And the more aware you are of yourself, the more aware you are of your surroundings, which is a safety thing also for anyone that's, you know, of age or in the senior community, just noticing if there's a rug there, noticing objects that are in your path, being aware of every step that you're taking and every movement that you're making so that you decrease your fall risk.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to physical wellness. Just proper care for our bodies for optimum health and functioning. It's remembering that wellness is not the absence of disease. Disease is I mean, we do the best that we can to prevent it, but sometimes it happens, and we just have to do the best we can in the body that we were given. Just a lot of self-care, with in my opinion, with physical wellness, which includes eating properly, exercise, getting your sleep, paying attention, again, self-awareness of how you're feeling and signs and symptoms of maybe illness, getting the appropriate health help that you need for your health. You know, not just dragging your feet to go to the doctor months later, being aware that you're not feeling great or something's off, and being your own health advocate, and understanding the relationship between your body's physical and mental health is crucial in order to develop the balanced physical wellness. Do you want to add to that?
Well, I think it just overall, you know, it's anything that supports how our body feels, functions, and performs. And you pretty much hit a wide variety of those. And what I tend to see in my day-to-day job, well, my day-to-day job when it's not COVID.
When it's, yes, functioning normally.
Exactly, is, you know, why do most people want to exercise? They probably want to look better, which is, you know, a basic human thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's also understanding that that's one part of the whole physical puzzle. Exercise, recovery from exercise, the nutrition, and all those things that go to it. If we can find a balance in the physical part of it, you know, we're going to be able to feel energetic. We're going to, you know, again, this is going to kind of go into, this actually points to that all these domains are not just self-contained. When you are firing on all cylinders physically, it's going to seep into all those other domains. But again, I think it just comes down to how you feel, how you function, how you perform, and all those things that go into it. Feeding your body properly, balance of nutrition, and so many things affect all those as well.
Absolutely. Since we're on the physical one, let's get into the question that you had about the difference between health and athletic performance. I think that that's really good, especially because I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about, you know, healthy fit and the elite athlete and physical. I feel like they really go together.
Oh yeah, and I think, again, it's something being in the fitness field for so long that you see a lot. I think it's pretty typical when you see someone that looks fit. So we'll take the Instagram, you know, fitness person, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we all know what we're talking about. It's people that are there, you know, no shirt on and
They stay in their sports bra and tight pants. And
yeah. Again, I'm not judging that, but I think a lot of people think that if you look a certain way and you're capable of, you know, impressive physical feats of fitness and athletics, that you're a healthy person. But again, athletes and high performing fitness people deal with the same things that we do. So if any of those other domains are off, I think where it sometimes gets a little bit tricky when you work with someone that has either very lofty fitness goals or training athletes, is how can we strike a balance across all these health domains when, you know, the behaviors that they need to do on a regular basis to perform at the highest level are inherently unhealthy.
yes.
A lot of it's just temporary, so there are ways to do it, but I think the thinking is just because someone can sprint fast or, you know, looks as a great physique or whatever, it doesn't necessarily correlate to health. There could be other things wrong. You know, when you just look at the dietary interventions that bodybuilders and physique athletes have, can be very potentially unhealthy over the long term. But that's not, being healthy is not their biggest concern at that time. If your money is tied to looking a certain way or performing a certain way, you have to do whatever you can to maximize that. So, and the other thing too is when you look at athletics, or just, I'll even just take anybody that's works in the fitness field, it's when you do anything for a long period of time at a high level, high intensity, your body's going to break down. So you
Yes.
might look fit, you might look great, but you ask any of those people, and I'll be the first to admit, there's always going to be aches and pains. So hopefully as we get older, we get wiser. My job isn't tied to either look a certain way or perform a certain way. So it's a lot easier for me to kind of achieve that balance, especially since I'm trying to educate people to do the same thing. But yeah, just when we look at all these different people that are very fit or amazing from an athletic performance standpoint, it doesn't necessarily mean they're healthy. There's a lot we can do to help them with that, but they're not the same, necessarily.
No, I couldn't agree more. I actually, working at a gym back where I came from in West Virginia, I knew a couple people training to be bodybuilders, and their diet was ridiculous. And then after it was over, what they would binge on, I knew someone who ate like two containers of peanut butter in one sitting. Like they binge, and I thought, oh my. So when in my era, it was looking at magazines. Now we have social media to follow. But sometimes, the girls that start taking the pills or the laxative pills or whatnot to get that flat stomach, and, there's a lot of unhealthy things that go along with trying to look like a particular image. So I like to encourage people in true health and wellness. If to be truly healthy is loving yourself exactly the way you are in this moment. And when you love yourself, you naturally want to make the best choices you can for yourself. So when I'm doing really well and I feel very balanced in all of my pillars, which is not all the time, even though I'm talking about this, Jay and I have our moments too, where we know the education, we know what to do, but we're human. So we make wrong choices. But when I feel very, very balanced and at my best, I love myself enough exactly the way I am to make better choices. I might not eat that thing or drink that thing, or because I'm like, that's not really fueling my body appropriately, or that's not really what my body needs right now. And it's once the mindset changes and the love is there for yourself, everything kind of just snowballs right into place. It's you just start making better choices for your health and wellness, and it's crazy and really cool how that happens. You're not gonna give your infant child Mountain Dew to drink because you love your infant. You want to give your infant the best, everything that you can. So when you love yourself as much as you love your child, you're going to start making better choices for yourself too.
I agree. I think it's also important to note here that there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be a bodybuilder or to have your body look a certain way. So I didn't want to come across like that, because another part of this whole health and wellness thing is if certain things give you a purpose, like we spoke about, make you feel good, give you joy in your life to look or feel a certain way, to me, that's also part of health too. And it all comes down to a balance. And ultimately, we're all going to we either make that choice early on, if we're lucky enough to be educated. Like when I first started working out and doing all these things, I wish I would have had a little bit more guidance and mentorship in that area, because aches, pains, maybe not achieving exactly what it is that you wanted to, but at some point you're going to come to that point and realize, okay, what does my mind, what does my body need for me to feel the way I want to feel? So again, all those things we talked about, if that's what you like to do, that's great. Remember, there's an ideal. then there's the reality. So I think if you get anything out of these discussions that we're having, it's understanding, okay, there's these different things I can look at, and just spend some time thinking about, okay, what means the most to me? Do I really have to work so hard to look a certain way? You know, do I really enjoy doing this? Or is there some middle ground? Can I still work out, but then focus on feeling good, but still go out and enjoy that happy hour and time with my friends, instead of abstaining from foods and drink and all that I feel will make me look not the way I want to. So there's a lot that goes into this. So I just don't want to think that it's a black and white type of thing. We all have to kind of find what works best for us. And whatever your goal is, it's certainly valid. Just understand there's different costs depending on, you know, what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. It all goes down to, again, knowing who you are,
And what you want.
because
Yeah.
it's what is the purpose, and that kind of goes back to when I was saying weeding the garden. It's all really just boils down again to the mindfulness of knowing who you are, who you want to become, and supporting that, you know, what gives you purpose in life. And as long as you're doing it because it's a passion and it fuels you and energizes you, and it's not about trying to be something you're not and trying to be something that someone else wants you to be, I think it's great. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap up what we were talking about, you know, is there a difference between health and high level performance or high level fitness? I think regardless of where you are, if that's something that gives meaning to you and you really like to work out, you like to smash those workouts and do all these different things, that's okay. Just understand there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of mitigate some of the potential consequences from overtraining or beating your body up. And I think one thing that we're starting to get right in the fitness field is understanding things like recovery, but what does that mean? We've talked a little bit about those things already. So it's just understanding, okay, you know, how can I best strike a balance, still achieve what I'm looking to do, but then also kind of shore up some of those other things. Because again, if you look at like elite athletes, you know, there's a set period of time where they're kind of peaking, whether it's for their athletic performance or their training, and there's plenty of recovery and other things built in. So if you, again, focus on your sleep, good nutrition, recovery strategies, all those things, then you're probably going to be fine when you're pushing some of those other you know, outcomes that you're looking for.
All right, we have about 10 minutes left. So let's get on to emotional wellness. I think this is our last pillar, I'm pretty sure. Oh, we have environmental and emotional. Okay, so for me, emotional wellness, I love this because a lot of people think that living mindfully is all about not feeling, but it's the complete opposite. Having a strong and balanced emotional wellness pillar would be having that sense of fun and laughter, having feelings, feeling your feelings appropriately. So what I say about people, about myself now, is what used to make me really angry for days or weeks, now I get angry, but it's only an hour. So it's feeling what you're feeling, not suppressing it. And it gives you kind of a sense of control in life of knowing, you know what, I'm really angry and I'm going to feel really angry for now. But I'm not going to camp out here. I'm not going to let it ruin the rest of my days. So it takes a lot of practice to feel that way. And there's still sometimes where I struggle with feeling angry or stuffing it down, going, I don't have time to be angry right now, which goes back to time management and making sure you're getting the appropriate sleep, you know, taking that mindful meditation time every day. But the more you meditate, the more you are responding to life instead of reacting to life. So you can have those emotions and you can feel those feelings and feel them strong whenever they come in, and then realize, okay, you know, I've expressed this, this is how I feel. I don't have control over this situation, but I do have control of my focal point of what I'm feeling right now. So I'm going to change my focal point to something more positive, maybe pulling out your gratitude journal, maybe going for a mindful walk. But you're going to change your focus, and then you're going to move on, and not let those emotions kind of carry through life with you. You know, those people with that big giant backpack of anger and hurt, and everyone knows one of those people in life.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and I think of the emotional dimension of wellness. I think of kind of like you were saying, feeling a full range of emotions. And I think the key word there is feeling, where I think a lot of times we're taught to suppress things. I think what you can learn from mindfulness and meditation is learning how to be with those emotions in a positive way to make us resilient and better able to express our emotions. So recognizing and appropriately expressing those emotions, I think, is really key to be healthy in this dimension. Regulating our emotions, being able to respond to those emotional challenges in a productive and, as I mentioned, a resilient way. And our just overall general mood. And again, to point out how some of these other buckets we've already talked about can impact this one. If you're short on sleep and you're cranky, how is that going to affect your general mood or your emotions or your ability to handle those emotions and actually feel them? If your nutrition is off point, I mean, I know how I feel when I don't eat right for me, because I don't think there's any one right way to eat.
Correct.
But when I go astray, it's not so much, I don't get mad at myself for it, but I know there's certain things that result in certain outcomes. And if I don't feel good because of it, I have an understanding of why. And one of the things that poor eating habits can do can, again, make it tough for us to regulate and be with our emotions and you know, kind of affect our overall general mood. So there's a lot, again, these do not all sit in isolation. They're all kind of one big ball that works together. And while ideally we can shore them all up and thrive in all these domains, I think at the very least, we need to just be aware of those and do our best to achieve the best balance, you know, in our individual lives that we can.
I know some of us, I don't know about you, but I am one of those hangry people. I get very emotional when I eat. This is probably, my food portion is my biggest downfall in life, because I go and I get busy and I forget to eat until it's too late. And then I can't deal with my emotions. And, you know, my son might do something so innocent and I might be furious. And I know that I'm furious because I'm just really hungry. So for me, it's about looking at the time and making sure I'm eating regularly and making sure I'm getting some form of nutrition in my body to keep myself going and to regulate. So I know when I start getting irritable, I know for me, I think, okay, when's the last time I ate? Or how was my sleep last night? Because all in all, on a normal day, I can be very regulated with my emotions. But if those two things are off for me, I know that it's going to make me very, very irritable.
Well, you're not in that boat alone, Beth, that's for sure. And I think a lot, we see that with a lot of people. And I think if we're all being honest, it's the same thing. I think where it becomes an issue is when people maybe don't have the awareness that they can make some subtle changes to positively affect some of these things. I think some of us, and I've been there too, so I'm not judging, where you just assume, well, this is the way I'm supposed to feel. You know, you're a parent, you work full time, you're supposed to feel exhausted, you're supposed to feel stressed out, you're supposed to feel like crap. And it's just kind of like that norm that you get used to, when in actuality, it doesn't take a whole heck of a lot, a couple little adjustments here or there, whether it's sleep, nutrition, all those things, and then all of a sudden you feel like a completely different person. So again, I think if there's any take home from all these talks that we have, it's being self-aware and being mindful to take a little bit better look at your own situation and see maybe where I can make some positive changes, or where would I like to be better? Would I like to feel better in certain ways? And then start using some of these tools, because it's very much an individual thing, and finding that sweet spot or that balance is going to take a little bit of effort. But the good news is there's a lot of people that have done it that can, you know, kind of guide you through that. And I know that I've learned a lot through research and schooling and continuing education. I've probably learned just as much just by being a self-experimenter and paying better attention to what I'm doing and how it affects how I feel, how I function, and all those different things too. So again, if you could just learn, practice being a little bit more self-aware, a lot of these things will start to come into better focus, and then you might be able to make some better life choices that can help you to whatever your goals are.
I have to say, and just like Jay was saying, I started my my journey in health and wellness. I've been doing this for 20 some years. And when I moved to New York and my husband was working full time, I was trying to find a job. We had our son. We moved away from all of our family. We had an aunt and uncle that lived here that were very supportive to us. But as far as I had nowhere. I had no job. And my son, and for me, I didn't feel like I was truly practicing wellness and health until I started adopting mindfulness practices. Because for me, what had happened is I wasn't sleeping regularly because my husband was working weird shifts and my eating was off and I wasn't doing mindfulness. I wasn't able to exercise because my son was 2, and what adult woman with a child at 2 can exercise in our home? So I ended up, I was a disaster. I was an emotional mess. And what I ended up doing is I really started I started setting a time for myself. So I started going to bed at a regular time, which made a huge difference of going to sleep and waking up at the same time. I added just a short meditation practice and some yoga into my life. So I decided that I'm just going to have to get up a little earlier for myself and do my yoga. So I started the yoga and the meditation. Those 2 small steps for me is what completely changed my whole viewpoint on health and wellness, because then all of a sudden I was feeling good. I was being scheduled. My son was on a schedule. I was on a schedule. You know, we had breakfast at the same time. We had lunch at the same time. Homework was done at the same time. And this only worked for me. But just making those 2 small changes in life, all of a sudden I started wanting to eat better because I started feeling better. And that's what really snowballed. And you'll find that if you can just pick one pillar to make one small change, whether it's your sleep or maybe adding a little exercise or a little breath work, you're going to notice that it's going to start changing the other pillars in your world dramatically. So last pillar, environmental, so outdoor immersion. I know for my end here, and I'll make it very quick, there's a study that showed that people went outside. Some went out in nature where there were trees and grass and natural elements, and the other group went to like a city where there was, you know, honking and all concrete and nothing really natural. And the health studies on those people that went in nature far surpassed the ones that went out into the city. So it just was going to prove that being out in the elements, and I know I say this all the time, I live in Ontario, but Webster Park has the best trails, and just sitting by the water, there's hundreds of them. Like, take your pick. North Ponds is my favorite. Go to North Ponds, take the bird trail, go down by the water, which I just discovered this year, the Webster Park down on Lake Road. There's really no excuse in this town. I mean, let's be real. To be outside and be immersed in nature, there's zero cost to any of these things. So what's your thoughts, Jay?
I'll keep it as concise and quick as I can, but when I look at the environmental pillar, I think of being and feeling safe and secure, feeling supported by your surroundings, and then also too things like having access to resources like healthcare, healthy food. If you look at, you know, some of the research on some of the healthiest cities around the world, most places that kind of score higher in these different dimensions of health tend to have, you know, infrastructure and ecosystems that support being able to walk and do things outside. So, you know, when you look at a lot of the suburban sprawl that we have here, you know, yes, there's a lot of trails and things like that, but we are also pretty captive to having to be in an automobile a lot just to get to where we're going. Whereas, you know, one of the things you can say, even though it's, you know, bright lights, big city, you know, cities that have, you know, good mass transit or good walking or biking paths, so you can get to work and to places a lot easier than you can in places like here. So it's things like that that I think of when I think of environmental. So many different things you can look at here, but I think just overall, you know, having access to the resources you need, you know, to have a balance in all these dimensions of health.
Absolutely. And again, these pillars, these are just Jay and I's opinions. I think that I don't know how many years you've been in healthcare. I've been in 20.
Yeah, a little longer than that. But.
So, I mean, really and truly, we just want to support you. You can look up, and when I was doing research for our class or for our talk today, you know, there's a lot of different opinions, but they all kind of base the grounding foundation for all of these, that we're all the same, is it just is about balance. It's about finding that one thing that you know in life, which always starts with self-awareness, knowing what you need to work on and taking that baby step. Like for me, many years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, it was just going to bed on time, just getting myself scheduled with going to bed, and that snowballed a whole new world of health and wellness for me. So you'll find that the better you feel, sometimes you don't know how bad you feel until you feel good. And
yeah, that's the perfect place, the perfect thing right there. You're right. I think sometimes we don't realize how poorly we feel until we start taking some of these actions. Then we're like, wait, I'm feeling so much better. And then that'll lead to further action. And next thing you know, you're well on your way.
yeah, so, and sometimes it might even take a friend giving you a gentle nudge to go, hey, you're sounding a little irritable today, or, you know, are you getting it took someone to tell me, like, what is going on with your schedule? You're always running late. You're always flustered when you get here. You're always this, or, you know, your spouse saying, you know, let's make some changes. Let's figure out how to make some changes. And for me, it was just taking that one step of getting enough sleep. And then that snowballed into wanting to do my yoga, and which snowballed into the mindfulness meditation, which then snowballed into really feeling pretty balanced and being aware when you're not balanced. There's nothing wrong with being unbalanced, but it takes the awareness of knowing. You have to be aware to know you're unbalanced so that you can correct it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, everybody. Well, Jay, do you have anything else to say before we close up?
No, just don't worry, be happy.
I love it. And for those of you that are super young, you won't get that. You'll have to go YouTube it.
I guess I just showed my age right there, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just aged ourselves. But yes, I agree. Don't worry, be happy, make small choices. We're, you know, coming to you every Friday night trying to help you make small changes to make your world as healthy as you possibly can, one step at a time. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.